she never seems to have it with her.
Coming to you from the University of Minnesota, Rochester, our town.
Girl with the pink sunglasses, but she only wants to wear them at night when she's drinking champagne.
I hope you're ready to geek out. Rochester will soon be hosting its first ever comic convention, complete with celebrities and costumes, of course. Brad Vigasa joins us today to tell us more. Welcome to our town.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Tell us a little bit about the idea for this convention. How did it come about?
To be honest with you, it was just a blur of the moment. It was one of these times we were sitting there at the shop talking, and next thing you know, I put out on Facebook who would be interested in having a Comic-Con in Rochester, because a lot of people have brought it up to us, and we've thought about it for a while, that this town needs something like this. So after all the tremendous feedback from the people on Facebook, I looked at my business partner, Jake Sharpen, and said, well, looks like we're doing it. And that's actually how it became. It was that easy.
Well, that's really serendipitous. You have this really great gem of a comic book store. My husband loves it.
Oh, thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about the culture of the comic culture here, the gaming culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so much more bigger than people actually imagine. We get a lot of great feedback from people like you actually just admitting about your husband, but we get a lot of people that come in and actually are just looking for anything. Stuff from back when they were kids, or new toys, comics, collectibles, video games. And I think, like I had mentioned earlier, it's just so much bigger than what people actually feel in Rochester, and that's why we thought that this Comic-Con was such a must-have.
So who are some of the headliners? Who are you really excited about coming out for this Comic-Con?
Well, we all know some of the big names, but I think some of them that I think I'm more or less excited about that a lot of people don't know are Jake the Snake Roberts. If you were a wrestling fan back in the day, you remember him with his huge python. You also have Sean Gunn. I think he's a really dark horse. His brother is the director of actually the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And Sean's actually been in those movies as not only a Ravager, but also he is the green suit for Rocket the Raccoon, which a lot of people don't know. Another one that we just actually added is Kelly Kelly. She was actually in the WWE recently as a diva, and she was a Divas champion. So those are just some of them that I'm really excited to see and meet, along with the others too, obviously.
I know we've heard about the big Comic-Cons out on the coast. What can we expect from this one here, especially for folks that may not have attended one before?
Yeah, I think what you can expect is a lot of fun. That's the one thing that I'm really, really pushing for, is there's going to be so much for everybody to do. It's for kids, it's for adults. We're going to have 6 different vehicles of attractions, whether it's the DeLorean, the Mystery Machine, the Ecto one from Ghostbusters. We're going to have a mini escape room courtesy of Med City Escape. We'll have an arcade alley, we'll have video game tournaments, Magic the Gathering tournaments. We're going to have a little something for everybody, and that's really why we did this. It's just not your typical Comic-Con, and that's why it's a Nerdinout, because Nerdinout is something that you love to do. It could be photography or you guys doing the news.
Sure, and you want to share it with others.
Absolutely, everybody.
So has it just been you and your partner? Have you been collaborating with others? Is there like a planning team that has been putting this together?
So for the most part, a lot of it has been myself. I can't lie, I've had tremendous help from a lot of different avenues, a lot of people saying and giving support. Just even people speaking, it helps, because there's times where you run into roadblocks or it just feels like it may not be going anywhere, and that's what kind of gets you right through that wall. But yeah, I mean, I have to thank all of our sponsors, everybody that's just been there the whole way so far, that's reached out and actually helped out or put their 2 cents in. It's been awesome, because this is our first time and first go around, and it's overwhelming at some points.
Well, it'll be great. I see you're wearing some swag
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
How can folks get connected to the event, buy their tickets? When is it going to be?
Yep, so you can actually go into the Nerdinout store, which is right behind Family Video on Elton Hills Drive. You could go to www.nerdinoutcon with no G, nerdinoutcon.com, and you can actually get shirts in the store or shirts on the website, and also your tickets.
Great. And for those of us that may not frequent the comic book store,
Yeah.
Is there sort of like an entry-level way to get into the comic book store? Things that might interest other folks that aren't as big nerds about comic culture.
I think it's just a really neat place to see. Even if you're not into it, you just come in, and I think it brings you back to when you were a kid, because again, when we were kids, we all played with toys. And we have a lot of toys from when we were all kids, or people even maybe a little bit younger or older.
Factor.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only that, but again, we have an extra room where you can actually come in and play Magic the Gathering, or play video games, or watch TV. So we have a lot to do there for kids and adults.
Well, thanks a lot, Brad, and I look forward to hanging out next month.
Thanks for your time and giving me the opportunity to share it.
Of course.
is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations:
the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, and the citizens of Minnesota.
and the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Rochester's international cred is growing. Rochester International Association Board President Brian Falloon tells us how. We revisit the establishment of Soldiers Field Memorial Park, and Danielle Teal finds out what the most romantic and most popular flowers are in Rochester. But first, Pam Whitfield and Dan Sanborn describe Rochester's response to the Me Too movement in this week's Our Culture segment.
Hi, good evening and welcome to #US2. We are so glad that you are here with us tonight. Following in the footsteps of the #MeToo movement, Regina Mustafa, Pam Whitfield, and I, Dawn Sanborn, came up with the idea for this event as to include everyone because we believe sexual misconduct, abuse, harassment, and assault are not just about me, but about us.
Us Too was our response, a community response to the Me Too movement. It started as a moment, became a movement, and we realized that no one in the Rochester area had done anything to respond to Me Too as a social issue, and of course as a women's movement. And we wanted to create a one-night event using a Rochester Downtown Alliance grant. So thank you, Rochester Downtown Alliance, for the money to support this event, in order to bring on stage a whole range of artistic expressions devoted to Us Too. Issues of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, even rape were brought to the stage through various mediums.
And somebody feels entitled enough to jostle into me, to grab onto me, and I scream, I say stop, but it seems like the comfort of everyone else on the bus is more important than my safety, because I am the one that's kicked off the bus, because I am the one that made the scene, because I am the one who decided to speak out.
I do believe it represented everything that we wanted. It brought awareness to these issues and locally, and I've never heard of another event like this in town that focused on all those aspects of sexual abuse, misconduct, and so on. So I think bringing the awareness to everybody, or the people that at least showed up, was significant.
So I feel like the reach of the event did go beyond just the 3 hours we were in the theater that night, because people stopped and paused and thought about this being a community response to the Me Too movement.
It's a way to know that we're truly alive, sailing into our darkest night.
And everyone spoke to the event and the topic and the issues, the Us Too issues through their own lens. I think that was interesting. When we were talking to people about being involved in it, we just said, what are you interested in writing about or acting about or performing? What kind of art do you think you might create? Because it was an open door. It was a way for everyone just to engage in some self-expression. And I was super surprised by what came out. We had some ideas in mind, but at the same time, the final product was always, I think, more substantial and just more emotionally charged than we had anticipated.
And just performing or writing or any of that is almost a therapeutic aspect. So, and I think it really resonated with the audience, like you said earlier.
You know what? I just look. You didn't even put my number in there. Why you gotta lie to me, Rachel?
I always thought it was only me. I'm the only one. And then when I started talking to good friends about it, realized that we're not alone. We all have been through some sort of abuse of some kind, which is sad to say.
Right. I'm still remembering what happened, how it happened, why.
I have to let the why go. It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault. I
I love you.
Let's
move on.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
The thrill making my heart race, pushing my body to the pain, going heavy. to limb their brains. Winners do whatever it takes.
This past week, Experience Rochester, formerly known as the Rochester Convention and Visitors Bureau, reported their annual results to the Rochester City Council. According to outgoing Executive Director Brad Jones, tourism and hospitality is Rochester's second largest industry, generating about $493 million in visitor spending. And revenues are growing. After 15 years at the helm, Jones is leaving for Washington State, and Mary Gassner, Experience Rochester's Director of Marketing and Communications, will step in as Interim Executive Director until a permanent replacement is named. Minnesota voters turned out for primary elections this week in near record numbers. It's the third highest number ever for a primary election. Results for Rochester include Kim Norton and Charlie O'Connell advancing in the mayor's race, Patrick Keene and Heather Holmes advancing in Ward 1, though there could be a recount due to close results, and Sean Palmer and Judy Hickey advancing in Ward 5. Rochester School Board seats will see Melissa Amundson and Bruce Cascabar vying for seat 2, and Kathy Nathan and Greg Gallas competing for seat 6. The general election is November 6th, so be sure to mark your calendars. And while politicians continue to beat their drums, high school students will be beating actual drums. Drums Please, taking place on Monday, August 20th, down on Peace Plaza, will feature local high school drum lines along with a community picnic. Admission is free, and you can check it out from 4 to 9 p.m. And it seems movies outdoors appears to be the theme for the weekend. You can see my favorite, Moana, at the History Center of Olmsted County's Schmidt Field on Friday, August 24th, and then take in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle in Slatterly Park on August 25th. Details for both can be found at experiencerochestermn.com. And coming up next, Danielle Teal finds out which flowers are Rochester's favorites in this week's Walkabout segment.
This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout at Rinning's Flowers with the one and only Phil Schroeder.
Hi, Danielle. How you doing?
Are you excited to talk about flowers?
Oh, certainly. All the time.
So here's the big question of the hour.
Yes.
What is the romantic flower?
The most romantic is the one that you like the most.
Ooh, that's a safe answer.
Yeah, but it's true. There's a lot of beautiful flowers that people love. And so roses certainly are high on that list. Orchids are high on that list. Gerber daisies right now are really high on that list as well. But there's a lot of beautiful flowers that are also very romantic.
Very cool. Well, my romantic flower that I really love is the rose, which I think is incredibly popular across the country, don't you think?
Oh, no question. It's still the most popular flower.
Oh, speaking of popularity,
yes.
What is the most popular flower in Rochester?
It's got to be the rose. All sorts of different colors are now available. A lot of different hybrids as well. So red is still very popular, but beautiful pinks, yellows and oranges, especially as we come into the fall season, are very, very popular. It's still the #1 flower here in Rochester.
And they're multicolored too. You can get those in multicolor as well.
Yes, you can get those in bicolors or multicolors, and those are really unique. People want to order those maybe a little ahead of time because those aren't maybe as readily available, but we can get them.
Okay, what is the most popular day for purchasing flowers?
Well,
when are you guys so busy?
The biggest day by far is Valentine's Day. That's the largest, and we just say that's because everybody has a sweetheart. You know, so we like to do that. Mother's Day is right behind that as well, and that's a long holiday. It's all week, but Valentine's Day by far is the busiest.
Okay, I think they should have a Danielle Teal Day.
Where, certainly.
You know.
And a Phil Schroeder Day. That'd be great.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
For decades, Rochester has been home to people from around the world. This guy right here joins us next to talk about Rochester's global community. Stay tuned.
Our past, remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
In 1924, the American Legion purchased several acres in southeast Rochester to create a park dedicated to veterans and amateur athletes. 3 years later, Soldiers Field Memorial Park became part of the city's park system. A 6-hole golf course opened in 1927. A football field, running track, baseball diamond, and field house were installed by 1929. Rochester High School used the park for athletic events until 1958. A swimming pool opened during record-breaking heat in July 1936. The most notable park event was in 1934, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt awarded Dr. Charles and Dr. William Mayo American Legion citations. hundreds of people flooded the park to witness the president speak. In 1997, ground broke for construction of a Veterans Memorial, modeled after Washington, D.C.'s Vietnam Veterans Memorial, with a black granite wall of remembrance. In 2015, the park became the central location of Rochester Fest.
She likes to turn me on. She likes to turn me on.
Did you know that after English, Rochester residents most commonly speak Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Vietnamese, Mon Khmer, Cambodian, and Serbo-Croatian languages, in addition to a variety of native African languages? This linguistic variety is rare and unique for a city of our size, and it reflects a growing diversity. The Rochester International Association has been working to foster community, social justice, mutual understanding, and cross-cultural exchange. Association Board President Brian Falloon joins us to tell us more about International Rochester. Welcome to our town, Brian.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission and the history of the Rochester International Association?
So, to go back to 1976, yes, it's that long ago that there was first a Rochester International event, which was put on by Fawad Mansour at the time as part of the bicentennial celebrations. More formally, RIA was incorporated, if you like, in 1982, and since then it's primarily focused on welcoming different communities and ethnicities here to Rochester and celebrating those cultures that are brought with them.
Can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of some of the communities that you've sort of interacted with through the association or just aware of here in Rochester?
Well, to start with, our board is highly international. We have, apart from obviously myself, who's from Ireland, we have Indian representation, Bangladeshi representation, Chinese and African representation, and also Native American, as well as, your normal American. And but more so in the community. I mean, they obviously represent their communities in terms of what we do, but on a broader sense, World Festival, for example, interacts with all the communities that are here, whether they're kind of European communities, Asian, African, South American, wherever they're from.
So this World Festival it's an annual event. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, when it happens during the year?
It's grown and shifted over the many years that we've been doing it. The next one, I think, if I calculate rightly, will be our 45th annual event. And we have of late been having it at the Mayo High School towards the end of April. And it really is that celebration of the cultures that are here in Rochester. And we also try to bring in kind of other elements as well from around the region and even up into the cities as well, and reach out.
Sure. In addition to the World Festival, what other events do you put on?
Traditionally, we've worked with the Mayor's International Committee to put on a summer picnic, which is normally in July, and we also have an annual Thanksgiving celebration dinner as well.
I think a lot of folks don't know that there is a Mayor's International Affairs Committee. Can you tell us a little bit about that committee and how RIA interacts with that?
Well, as I say, our primary interaction has been, and we hope will obviously continue with a new mayor coming on board. I mean, we've appreciated the work that Ardell has done with the organisation over the years, and just for the short time I've been in tenure as well. He's a great advocate for the organisation and for diversity. So we hope the new mayor will continue in that vein. But to be honest, that is our kind of prime interaction with the International Committee. Having said that, I think there is now an opportunity with the new Cultural City initiative that the mayor launched to kind of, further embed ourselves and work in partnership with whoever is dealing with that.
Sure, and that Intercultural Cities initiative is really to kind of get a recognition of Rochester as an international community.
Yeah.
And do you know anything more about that?
Only that it's a European model. I am familiar with some aspects of it, but we would need to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what's involved.
So you do a lot of different, there's a World Festival, there's other events that you do, it's a combination of support as well as celebration.
Yeah.
In that support vein, what sort of programming do you do?
Again, so historically we did a lot in kind of welcoming people into Rochester. We have a welcoming group and a welcoming committee. We've kind of lost a little bit of that when organizations like IMAA, for example, have taken on that more service-based element. So we're kind of having to refocus and reshift kind of our mission in some ways. We would like to get back into that, obviously, but we think there are other avenues to explore in terms of what our mission statement is and encouraging that intercultural exchange that needs to be done, certainly in this present climate.
Certainly. And so there's the work that you do here, but then there's also perhaps work that you might do to help raise awareness about other global issues. Do you have any examples of that or anything upcoming?
Well, one of the things that I'm personally working on is with an organization called South Sudan Women's and Orphans Solution. The situation in South Sudan is particularly dire following the split, obviously, within Sudan itself, and then the internal civil war and drought. So I'm working to put on a fundraiser for that organization and raise awareness of another kind of forgotten war that's been going on in the aftermath of that.
And that's a real sort of I guess advantage of having international community here, where you can sort of connect to the issues that are happening here on the ground, but then also elsewhere to this big wide world.
Well, very much so, and that's one of the things that when I first came and joined RIA, that interconnection was largely already established. So it made my job a lot easier to try and connect with these other groups and agencies, and we want to continue that and obviously expand on it too.
On this show, we talk a lot about the growth of the community, the changes that are happening in this community as a result of Destination Medical Center and so many other developments. What do you expect to see change or shift within our international community, whether it's more people or just shifts in the community issues that are going to be faced?
I think some of the biggest challenges, are ones that have already existed, and that is how do we better integrate ourselves, as a community. That we recognize our not just diversity but our interculturality, and then how do we actually express that, and as a genuine kind of combined community, not these little silos of this community's over here and this community's over here and they're doing their own thing. How do we pull that together? So I think that challenge has always existed. Looking forward, Destination Medical Center is going to be a huge kind of challenge for everybody, not just who might be coming, but how we're going to house them, where they're going to be housed, and all the impacts on the social infrastructure. Our job, I think, and I would hope, is to kind of have a platform already set where people are more willing to accept, new people coming in from whatever diverse background they come from, because, we need the workers. That's the thing, and they're not all going to be white.
Is there anything that specifically your organization, or perhaps you have opinions about what the city could do to be more welcoming or do some more of that integration work, so it's not just silos of communities living in this space?
Yeah, I think there genuinely has to be an acknowledgement that while we've recognized that we are diverse, we haven't allowed that to kind of fully flourish. And I think that may be part of the language now of diversity. We need to maybe move to a different kind of expression of what we are and how we actually deal with that. So I think there are issues that kind of really need to be brought to the fore and have genuine discussions, with the wider community as to what it is we want to see in our community. How can we better integrate people into community and still have those communities retain their cultural and sort of their own kind of reflections back to their ethnic origins.
And how can people stay connected with what your organization is doing and just learn a little bit more about our international community here in Rochester?
Well, we're kind of active on Facebook, so RIA is on Facebook. Check us out on that and like us and all that good stuff. We have a website as well, ria-minnesota.org. We have a Twitter account, but we're not very good with that at the moment, so we need some expertise there, although, Twitter has its moments too, obviously.
So if anyone's listening, you need some Twitter help.
We need some Twitter help. Not as much as some people might need.
Is there? Do you have a film series that you do?
We do, and again, this is kind of something that we've been trying to expand into is raise awareness in the wider community about issues around ethnicity and just generally world issues. So we've partnered with the library, which again I think is one of our greatest city assets, and we love the work that they do across all their activities. So we want to support them as well. So yes, movie series and talks and discussions and anything that we can do to kind of get people talking about what we need to talk about as a community.
Well, thanks a lot, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you, Nicole.
Hope you learned as much as I did about Rochester's international community, and I hope you can plug in to learn a little bit more. I know I will be, and also I'll be nerding out this September with the Comic-Con that's coming up. And thank you for joining us from the University of Minnesota Rochester. We will see you next week.
Our Town is produced by KSMQ Public Television, nonprofit, non-commercial. Please help pay for this programming by making a personal contribution at ksmq.org. Thank you.